Hello and welcome to a Private Practice Stories episode of the Physician Growth Accelerator. This is when we do a quick episode. We take a story from one of our listeners, usually it's something they're frustrated with that they've experienced, and we show you how we would look through it through the lens of the Physician Growth Accelerator, keeping in mind that every system is perfectly designed to get the result it gets. So today's story, it comes from a practice that is concerned about spending money adding an APP to their practice. So they have constraints within their appointments, but they're worried about all the money it costs to add an APP to the practice. And this actually comes up a lot. When you look at this, adding this person, it's adding this big expense, right? We have that word that we attach to this person. And I'm going to ask you to think about the finances of your practice a little bit differently. And I apologize if this gets too much into the weeds of the finance, but I think it's a really important bit of information. When you get your income statement at the end of the month, end of the quarter, or whatever, there's basically three sections. You have incoming revenue, and then you have costs of goods sold. A lot of times that's maybe devices, things like that. And then you have all of your expenses. And a lot of times private practices have all of their employees as part of expenses. And this is what I suggest is not the greatest idea. Someone like an APP or an additional surgeon, I would rather see the cost of their pay be in costs of goods sold because their existence allows you to have higher throughput. So if you imagine your electric bill, if you suddenly paid more money for your electric bill, you don't get to see any more patients. If you bring on an APP and you set up the process and schedule right, you're actually increasing the capacity, the availability of what the practice can achieve. So instead of viewing this person as an expense, what I'd ask you to do is fast forward a year and think about how many patient visits you would need them to see for them to be a break even on their pay. And it'll blow your mind how few appointments it is. And when you start to look at your existing practice, you could see that, gosh, you know what? We're doing procedures 6, 7, 8 weeks out. If we add an APP and bring capacity in, we might be able to do procedures 4, 5 weeks out. That little bit of time is a massive impact to your revenue. So think about an APP or an additional physician or surgeon, not as an expense to the business, but as an investment. I'm not saying it's a good idea, but when you think about that person as a cost of goods sold, it'll help you understand your finances and whether or not they can bring enough value so that then you're actually excited. Because this practice, when we spoke to them about this specific story, it's actually they're hurting themselves by not bringing an APP in. And once we showed them how to look at it through that lens, they understood that it's probably one of the most affordable positions they have because the position brings in more capacity and potential. But like I said, a lot of things go into that. Not all practices are ready for an APP. And using that cost of goods sold mindset will help you uncover that as well. So if you have any questions about this, because I know it's a little bit in the weeds on finance, always feel free to reach out. If you have a story about your private practice, any bit of frustration you're dealing with, feel free to submit it at physiciangrowthaccelerator.com. And while you're there, check your vitals. See if you have any obvious constraints that are holding you back from achieving the goals you want to achieve. And we'll see you next time on the Physician Growth Accelerator.